Every single year, thousands of people travel from all over the world to visit me in Omaha, Nebraska. They line up for hours just to ask me a single question. They walk up to the microphone and they ask me, Warren, what is the next big stock? Should I buy Apple or should I buy Google? When is the next market crash going to happen? What is the ultimate secret to building $1 billion portfolio? They look at me with absolute desperation in their eyes. They genuinely believe that a secret stock tip is going to change their entire life. They think that if they can just find the perfect company and buy it at the exact right second, all of their financial problems will completely disappear. I look at these young, ambitious men and I feel a deep sense of pity. They are completely blind. They are spending thousands of hours trying to optimize their financial portfolio by 1 or 2%, while completely ignoring a massive gaping hole in the foundation of their life. There is a massive lie that is constantly repeated on Wall Street. The lie is that your ultimate wealth is determined by the financial decisions you make between 9:30 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. The lie is that your intelligence, your work ethic, and your ability to read a balance sheet are the most important variables in the equation of success. That is a complete and absolute joke. Your ultimate financial destiny has very little to do with what happens in the office. Your ultimate financial destiny is determined entirely by who is waiting for you when you go home. The single most important financial decision you will ever make in your entire life has absolutely nothing to do with the stock market. It has nothing to do with the stock market. It has nothing to do with real estate. It is the decision of who you choose to marry. People do not like to hear this. Society has conditioned us to view marriage as a romantic Hollywood movie. We are taught to look for passion, for butterflies in our stomach, and for physical attraction. We treat marriage like a beautiful poem. But in the cold, harsh reality of capitalism, marriage is not a poem. Marriage is a legally binding, infinite duration merger and acquisition. It is the most extreme corporate merger you will ever execute. Think about the brutal mathematics of this transaction. When you buy a terrible stock, the absolute worst thing that can happen is that the stock goes to zero. You lose 100% of your initial investment. It is painful, but your losses are mathematically capped. You can wake up the next day, earn more money, and recover. But when you merge your life with the wrong partner, you are not buying a simple stock. You are signing an unlimited liability contract. You are handing over the keys to your entire existence. You are giving this person direct access to your capital, your physical energy, your emotional stability, and your ultimate cognitive bandwidth. If you choose the wrong person, your losses are not capped at 100%. They are infinite. A toxic partner can completely destroy your bank account, ruin your physical health, alienate you from your children, and drive you to the edge of absolute insanity. I have seen the smartest men on Wall Street, men with brilliant minds and massive fortunes, completely destroyed by a bad marriage. Their intelligence could not save them. Their money could not protect them. They introduced a financial and emotional black hole into their daily life, and they were slowly consumed by it. But the exact opposite is also true. If you choose the right person, you are acquiring the ultimate competitive advantage. You are installing a permanent psychological fortress around your mind. Today, we are going to strip away the romance. We are going to look at the institution of marriage through the cold, rational lens of a value investor. I am going to show you why choosing the right wife is the ultimate margin of safety. If you get this one single decision right, you can make 1,000 stupid mistakes in your career, and you will still end up incredibly wealthy and happy. If you get this decision wrong, no amount of financial genius will ever save you from ruin. Let us open the ledger and begin. Let us examine the brutal mathematics of a bad marriage. Most people completely misunderstand the financial danger of choosing the wrong partner. They think the primary cost of a bad marriage is the cost of a divorce. They think it is just a 50% cut of their net worth, a few expensive lawyers, and some alimony payments. That is a massive and dangerous underestimation. The true cost of the wrong partner is not calculated at the end of the marriage. It is an invisible wealth tax that you pay every single day of your life. To understand this, you must understand a concept called cognitive bandwidth. In the game of business and investing, your most valuable asset is not your cash. It is your cognitive bandwidth. It is your ability to think clearly, to assess risk objectively, and to make cold, rational decisions under extreme pressure. You wake up every morning with a limited supply of this mental energy. If you leave the office after a long day of fighting the brutal forces of the market and you go home to a war zone, you are in serious trouble. If you have to walk through your front door and immediately deal with endless arguments, emotional manipulation, toxic jealousy, or passive-aggressive behavior, your mental battery is completely drained to zero. You do not get to recharge. You are constantly walking on eggshells in your own home. I have watched some of the most brilliant traders on Wall Street lose millions of dollars in a single afternoon. But when you look closely at why they made those catastrophic errors, it was almost never because they forgot how to read a balance sheet. It was not because their financial models were wrong. It was because they had a screaming match with their wife the night before. They came into the office emotionally compromised. They were exhausted, angry, and desperate for a quick win to make themselves feel powerful again. They brought their domestic chaos directly into the financial markets. And let me tell you something about the market. The market has absolutely zero mercy for your emotional chaos. The market is a cold, calculating machine. It will take all of your money and it will hand it to someone who slept peacefully the night before. When you choose a toxic partner, you are forcing yourself to fight a two-front war. You are fighting the global economy during the day, and you are fighting your spouse at night. No human being, no matter how intelligent or resilient, can survive a two-front war for very long. Eventually, your physical health breaks down. Your decision-making collapses. You start taking stupid risks just to feel a brief rush of dopamine, and your empire falls apart. Think about a professional athlete. If a heavyweight boxer steps into the ring with a broken ankle, he is going to get knocked out. It does not matter how hard he trained his upper body. A toxic marriage is the broken ankle of the business world. You are stepping into the most competitive arena on earth, trying to defeat the smartest minds on the planet, but you are completely crippled from the inside. Now let us talk about the ultimate hidden cost, the cost of lost compounding. Every hour you spend arguing about meaningless domestic drama is an hour you could have spent reading a 500-page annual report. Every ounce of anxiety you feel about your relationship is an ounce of focus stolen from your long-term business strategy. When you multiply that daily theft of time and energy over a period of 10, 20, or 30 years, the compounding negative effect is absolutely staggering. You do not just lose half of what you built when you finally get a divorce. You lose the massive multi-million-dollar empire you were supposed to build, but never did because your engine was constantly running out of fuel. You spend your entire life operating at 20% capacity. You simply cannot build an impenetrable financial fortress on top of a crumbling emotional foundation. It violates the basic laws of physics. So the next time you are evaluating a potential partner, I want you to look past the physical attraction. I want you to ask yourself a very cold, analytical question. Is this person going to be a battery that recharges my cognitive bandwidth? Or are they going to be a black hole that consumes it? If you suspect they are a black hole, you must walk away immediately, regardless of how much it hurts in the short term. Your ultimate survival depends on it. Let us move to the third dimension of this brutal transaction. I call this the ultimate defense of the inner scorecard. Look around at the men who make a little bit of money in their 30s and 40s. Look at what happens to them. They immediately experience massive lifestyle creep. They buy a house that is far too big. They buy luxury cars they cannot afford. They send their children to absurdly expensive private schools. Why do they do this? In most cases, they are not doing it for themselves. They are doing it because they married a woman who operates entirely on an outer scorecard. They married a woman who is absolutely terrified of what the neighbors think. When your partner is obsessed with social status, you are essentially signing up for a lifetime of financial slavery. You will be forced to take massive unnecessary risks in your career or your business simply to fund her vanity. You will have to work a toxic job you hate just to pay the mortgage on a mansion that you use as a prop to impress strangers. This is how incredibly smart men go completely bankrupt. They let the external pressure of a vain partner dictate their capital allocation. In the modern era, this danger is multiplied by a factor of 1,000. We live in a world driven by social media. Your partner is constantly bombarded with images of fake wealth, luxury vacations, and perfectly curated lives. If she is weak, she will absorb that poison. She will bring that poison into your home. She will look at you and demand to know why you are not providing that same fake reality. When you are forced to provide a fake reality, you become a fraud. You start cutting corners in your business. You take on massive amounts of debt. You become fragile. And in the financial markets, fragile things always get destroyed. My partner, Charlie Munger, and I have always operated on what we call an inner scorecard. We hold ourselves to a standard that has absolutely nothing to do with the applause of the crowd. But here is the secret that nobody talks about. It is almost biologically impossible to maintain an inner scorecard if you share a bed with someone who worships the outer scorecard. If you come home every night to a partner who complains that your car is too old or that your vacation was not luxurious enough, the toxic energy will eventually erode your discipline. You will break. You will compromise your long-term compounding strategy just to buy a few days of peace in your own house. Now look at the exact opposite scenario. I still live in the exact same house I bought in 1958 for $31,500. I drive very normal, boring cars. I eat a $3 breakfast at McDonald's. People always ask me how I maintain this level of extreme frugality when I have billions of dollars in the bank. They think I have superhuman willpower. They are wrong. The real reason I can live like this is because of the woman I chose to marry. My wife never cared about the size of the house. She never cared about country club memberships or expensive jewelry. She was completely immune to the disease of social comparison. Because she was immune, I was immune. She was the ultimate defender of my inner scorecard. When you have a partner who does not demand a luxurious lifestyle, you possess a massive, almost unfair advantage over your competitors. You have the ultimate financial weapon. It is called staying power. You do not have to chase terrible high-risk investments to make a quick profit. You can hold on to your cash. You can wait patiently for the perfect opportunity because there is no one at home screaming at you to buy a new boat. A partner who is content with simplicity is not just a good person. They are a literal mathematical force multiplier for your wealth. They allow your capital to compound in absolute silence, uninterrupted by the desperate need to look rich. If you want to know if you are dating the right person, perform a very simple test. Tell them that you are going to downsize your lifestyle. Tell them you are going to sell the nice car, move into a smaller apartment, and invest every single spare dollar into a business for the next 10 years. Watch their reaction very closely. If they panic, if they look at you with disgust, if they start talking about what their friends will think, you must end the relationship immediately. You are looking at a financial liability. You are looking at a person who will eventually force you to trade your freedom for their ego. But if they look at you calmly and say, I do not care where we live as long as we are building our future, you have found a unicorn. You have found a partner who will protect your inner scorecard. You have found the foundation of a real empire. Let us move to the fourth dimension of this transaction. Let us talk about the ultimate margin of safety. In the world of value investing, my mentor Benjamin Graham taught me a very simple rule. You must always build a massive margin of safety into every single transaction. If you are driving a truck that weighs 10,000 pounds, you do not drive it over a bridge that is designed to hold exactly 10,000 pounds. That is a catastrophic risk. You build a bridge that can hold 30,000 pounds. You prepare for the absolute worst case scenario. This principle applies perfectly and ruthlessly to the person you choose to marry. Most men test their relationships during a bull market. They evaluate their partner when their business is booming, when the stock market is hitting record highs, and when their bank account is overflowing with cash. It is incredibly easy to have a peaceful, loving, and supportive relationship when the global economy is showering you with money. Everyone is happy when the numbers are going up, but that is not a real test. That is a complete illusion. The true test of a partner and the true test of your financial foundation happens during a terrifying, catastrophic economic collapse. Think about the brutal financial crisis of 2008. Think about the dot-com crash in the year 2000. Or think about the harsh, isolating reality of your own startup suddenly running out of cash and facing bankruptcy. When your net worth drops by 50% in a single month, and the financial television anchors are screaming that the world is coming to an end, the true psychological nature of your partner will be entirely exposed. If you chose the wrong person, a person who relies on external validation and material comfort, they will break under the pressure. They will look at the collapsing investment portfolio and they will absolutely panic. They will blame you for the destruction. They will scream at you to sell every single asset at the absolute bottom of the market, forcing you to lock in your permanent financial ruin. They will take an external macroeconomic crisis and weaponize it into an internal emotional war. When you have a fragile partner during a market crash, you are mathematically guaranteed to make fatal, irreversible decisions. You simply cannot execute a brilliant, contrarian, long-term strategy when your spouse is threatening to leave you because your stock price temporarily dropped. Now look at the exact opposite scenario. Look at the ultimate margin of safety. When the market is crashing, when there is absolute blood in the streets, and when all of your competitors are jumping out of windows, the right partner does not panic. They do not care about the temporary, meaningless fluctuation of your net worth. They look at you, they pour you a cup of coffee, and they tell you that this is just a normal economic cycle. They tell you that they believe in your judgment and that the sky is not falling. That single moment of absolute, unshakable domestic loyalty is worth more than $1 billion in cold cash. When your partner completely removes the domestic pressure, something magical happens to your brain. Your cognitive bandwidth is entirely freed up. You are no longer acting out of fear or desperation. You can look at the collapsing market with extreme, terrifying clarity. This is the exact psychological state that allows you to be greedy when everyone else is fearful. You can only deploy capital and buy undervalued assets during a massive panic if your own household is completely and totally immune to that panic. If my partner had panicked every time the stock market went down 20%, my empire would not exist today. I would have been forced to sell my best investments just to calm her down. Her incredible emotional stability gave me the absolute freedom to hold my positions for decades, regardless of what the economic weather looked like. A great wife is the ultimate hedge against disaster. She is the deep concrete foundation that prevents your emotional house from collapsing during a Category 5 financial hurricane. So when you are evaluating a potential life partner, do not look for someone who is simply fun to take on a luxury vacation to Europe. Do not look for someone who only smiles when the champagne is flowing. Look for someone you would want to be trapped in a concrete bunker with during a global financial war. Look for someone who possesses extreme emotional stoicism. If a person cannot handle a delayed flight, a flat tire, or a minor restaurant inconvenience without throwing a massive emotional tantrum, they will absolutely destroy your life when a real economic crisis hits. Marry the person who is perfectly calm in the storm. Marry your ultimate margin of safety. Let us move to the fifth dimension of this transaction. I call this the board of directors and the ultimate truth teller. Look at how the average successful man chooses his partner. His ego is incredibly fragile. He wants to feel powerful, so he looks for a woman who will constantly validate him. He looks for a cheerleader. He wants someone who will nod her head, agree with every single word he says, and treat him like an absolute genius. In the corporate world, this is the exact equivalent of a chief executive officer filling his board of directors with a group of submissive, weak-minded yes men. It feels fantastic for your ego in the short term, but it is mathematically guaranteed to destroy your company in the long term. When you are completely surrounded by people who refuse to challenge you, you become completely blind to your own stupidity. You develop massive blind spots. You start believing your own delusions of grandeur. As you become more successful, a very dangerous phenomenon occurs. The world stops telling you the truth. Your employees will not tell you when your ideas are terrible because they want to keep their jobs. Your brokers and financial advisors will agree with you because they want your commission fees. You become completely isolated in an echo chamber of your own making. This is why you absolutely must have a Charlie Munger in your life. Charlie and I have worked together for decades, but Charlie is not my cheerleader. He does not stroke my ego. He is my ultimate truth teller. When I bring a terrible investment idea to Charlie, he does not gently suggest that I might be wrong. He looks me dead in the eye and tells me that it is the most incredibly stupid idea he has ever heard. He ruthlessly attacks my logic. He points out every single flaw in my thinking. That brutal, unfiltered honesty has saved me from making billions of dollars in catastrophic mistakes. It is the most valuable asset I possess. When you choose a wife, you are selecting the vice chairman of your own life. You are choosing the most important member of your personal board of directors. If you choose a fragile flower who is too intimidated to disagree with you, you are walking straight into a financial minefield without a metal detector. You need a partner who possesses massive intellectual horsepower. You need a woman who is smart enough to immediately recognize when you are making a fatal error and brave enough to smash your ego to pieces before you can execute that error. Men, especially when they start making a little bit of money, are highly susceptible to an insidious disease called hubris. You have one successful year in your business, or you pick one winning stock, and suddenly you think you are an invincible god of finance. Your testosterone completely overrides your rational thinking. A weak partner will watch you accelerate the car toward the edge of a cliff, and she will say nothing because she is afraid of starting an argument. A great partner, a true equal, will grab the steering wheel and slam her foot on the brakes. She will look at you coldly and tell you that you are letting your recent success completely cloud your judgment. She will remind you of your core principles. She will force you to sit down, run the numbers again, and strip away your emotional bias.
This kind of relationship requires a massive amount of male security. A weak, insecure man simply cannot handle a brilliant, outspoken woman. A weak man is absolutely terrified of being challenged in his own home. He would rather be comfortable and bankrupt than be challenged and wealthy.
But a man who is actually destined to build a generational empire actively seeks out that intellectual friction. He craves it. He knows that a wife who constantly challenges his assumptions is literally saving him from his own worst enemy. And his own worst enemy is his own unchecked ego. So do not marry a fan. Do not marry a submissive cheerleader. Marry a woman who has the profound psychological strength to tell you exactly when you are being a complete fool. Marry your ultimate truth teller. Marry your own Charlie Munger. Let us move to the sixth dimension of this ultimate transaction. I call this the 50-year horizon and the absolute rejection of short-term speculation. When an amateur investor enters the stock market, they are driven entirely by emotion. They look for the hot new technology company. They look for the stock that is skyrocketing on the front page of the newspaper. They are chasing a temporary rush of dopamine. They want a massive return in 3 weeks. This is exactly how the average man chooses a wife. He is driven entirely by his primitive biology. He looks for physical perfection. He looks for temporary passion. He is completely blinded by a chemical reaction in his brain. He is buying a highly speculative, incredibly risky asset based on absolute zero fundamental analysis. When you buy a company simply because the logo looks nice, you are guaranteed to lose all of your money. When the initial excitement fades and the reality of a 30-year bear market sets in, that speculative investment will collapse. Physical beauty fades. Passion is temporary. Biological impulses are mathematically guaranteed to decline. If you build your entire life foundation on a temporary chemical reaction, your empire will crumble into dust. My partner Charlie and I do not buy companies for 3 weeks. We do not even buy them for 3 years. When we acquire a business, we look at the core fundamentals and we ask ourselves a very simple question. Will the specific company still possess a massive, impenetrable competitive advantage 50 years from now? If we cannot clearly see the 50-year horizon, we simply do not make the investment. We walk away. You must apply this exact same cold, ruthless framework to your romantic life. You must perform a 50-year fundamental analysis on your potential partner. You are not looking for someone who is fun at a party on a Friday night. You are looking for a completely different set of metrics. You are looking for a deep, unshakable character. You are looking for a person who possesses a massive psychological moat. How do you identify a psychological moat? You look at how they respond to severe adversity. You look at how they treat people who can do absolutely nothing for them. You look at their capacity for delayed gratification. A woman with a wide moat does not need constant entertainment. She does not require constant validation from external sources. She is what we call a low-maintenance, high-yield asset. Think about the greatest businesses in the world. The greatest businesses do not require the chief executive officer to constantly intervene and fix problems every single day. They operate beautifully on their own. They quietly generate massive amounts of free cash flow year after year, decade after decade. A truly great partner operates on the exact same principle. A great partner does not drain your energy with constant manufactured drama. She manages her own emotions. She solves complex problems independently. She quietly, consistently generates a massive surplus of peace, stability, and emotional capital. You never have to wake up and wonder if the foundation is cracking. You can dedicate 100% of your cognitive focus to building your empire because your domestic foundation is made of solid steel. When you find a partner with these incredibly rare fundamentals, the compounding effect over 50 years is almost impossible to comprehend. Imagine waking up every single morning for half a century next to a person who is fundamentally decent, intensely loyal, and intellectually brilliant. Every single day, she adds a tiny fraction of a percent to your overall well-being. In the first year, you might not notice the massive difference. But over 20, 30, or 50 years, that tiny daily advantage compounds into an absolute mountain of wealth and happiness. This is what I call the ultimate rocking chair test. Imagine you are 90 years old, sitting in a rocking chair on your front porch. You have zero energy left to fight the world. Your physical beauty is completely gone. Your bank account no longer brings you any thrill. The only thing that will matter in that exact moment is the character of the person sitting in the rocking chair next to you. If you chose a speculative stock based on temporary excitement, you will spend your final years in absolute misery. But if you chose a fundamentally sound partner with a massive psychological moat, you will die as the richest man on earth. Stop speculating. Stop trading on emotion. Look for the 50-year horizon. Let us conclude this meeting. We have looked at the balance sheet of your life. We have examined the invisible wealth tax, the inner scorecard, the ultimate margin of safety, the truth teller, and the 50-year horizon. When you put all of these dimensions together, you realize something profound. The modern world is obsessed with finding the perfect investment strategy. Men spend their entire lives chasing the next big move. They sacrifice their health, their time, and their peace of mind just to see the numbers in their bank account go up. But those numbers are entirely meaningless if your foundation is rotting from the inside. You can make $1 billion in the stock market, but if you go home to a toxic partner, you are living in absolute poverty. You are a failure in the only game that actually matters. On the other hand, if you build your life with a partner who defends your inner scorecard, who tells you the brutal truth when you become arrogant, and who stands calmly by your side during a Category 5 financial hurricane, you have already won the ultimate prize. You possess a level of wealth that no economic crisis can ever destroy. You have built a fortress that will stand for a century. When your time on this earth is finally coming to an end, you will not care about the real estate you acquired. You will not care about the complex business deals you managed to close. The global economy will continue to turn without you, and the financial market will completely forget your name. The only true measure of your success will be the quality of the person holding your hand in those final moments. So, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, do not immediately check the financial news. Do not look at the stock charts. Do not obsess over your portfolio. Look at the person sitting across from you at the breakfast table. Look at them with a cold, rational, and completely honest eye. Ask yourself if they are a fatal liability that is slowly draining your cognitive bandwidth, or if they are the ultimate compounding asset that will protect your empire for the next 50 years. Your honest answer to that single question will dictate your entire destiny. Do not let your primitive biology make the most important financial decision of your life. Choose your partner exactly like you are executing the most critical corporate acquisition of your existence. Because you are. That's all. Thanks for watching.